Get the ladybug off your shoulder.
Ladybug's a sign of good luck.
We're still rolling. Welcome to the McInnes Marketing Minute. Young Benjamin will be back shortly. He's got a wood chip in his eye.
And it goes a little something like this.
It's like that, and that's the way it is.
What's up, guys, and welcome to this week's McInnes Marketing Minute.
Hello, and welcome.
Yes.
You already said the line.
I know.
So we're here.
So
This
we're
is the
here.
minute. What's the topic?
Well, as the title gives away, did the market just take a turn?
Did it?
And
Looks
we're
like
not talking about a turn downwards, we're talking about a turn upwards. And yes, you are correct, Jay. It looks like it, eh?
It definitely did. Listings are down, sales are up.
Yes. And not
Quite
just
substantially.
Yeah, that's key. July is typically one of the slowest times in Vancouver real estate, and it's actually been the second busiest of the year, and a 23.5% increase from July last year, and a 23.1% increase in sales from June this year.
Market's crashing. It's gonna crash. Doesn't matter. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry, the naysayers.
The naysayers. So, yes, quite substantial changes. There were 2,557 homes which sold in Metro Vancouver across the period of July 2019. What's interesting, particularly, is when we look at the sales to active ratios. So,
This is what decides percentage-wise if it's a buyer's market, a balanced market, or a seller's market, just for those people who do not know.
yeah, so basically, analysts, what they say is typically when the sales to active ratios for a particular home type and area falls under 12% for a sustained period of time, it puts downward pressure on pricing. When it's 20% and above, it puts upwards pressure on pricing, and then obviously in the middle you kind of remain stagnant in and around that area.
Buoyant.
Buoyant in and around that area. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a better word than stagnant, hey? Stagnant sounds ugly. Anyway, so interestingly enough, for first of all, the whole entire portion of Metro Vancouver, detached homes were, do you know what this is?
Up
Yeah, but do you know where it was, what the percentage was?
this past month,
Yeah.
20...
Nope.
On to you, Ben.
There, it actually sat at like 13.5%, so it's kind of in that buoyant area.
And buoyant being 12 to
20, like 12 to more 13 to 19.
Yeah.
So, and then for townhouses, it was 20%, and for apartments, it was 22%. Now, like we said, well, obviously we talk about those percentages, where it sits in the market. Is it downward pressure, upwards pressure? Is it going to remain buoyant? But don't forget the key, sustainable period of time. So just because it hits there once in the year, I've got something in my other eye now. Wow.
Oh my God. Just because it hits that once doesn't mean that this is the new trajectory. However,
Yeah.
when we start seeing months that look like this, it starts to build a case for justification moving forward a lot of the time. And I've seen a lot online lately of other agents, or maybe you have, speaking of it's now a seller's market, and when they're saying that, just to the percentage, that's what they're referencing, those details that Ben just discussed.
Yes, correct.
So in those segments, we're now in a seller's market, technically speaking.
Technically, and take that with a grain of salt. Like we kind of
course.
said, it's not that prices are going to like fly upwards at all. But I think what you should really take away from this video more than anything is a lot of the, not even the naysayers, but a lot of people have been trying to time the market and trying to come in when the market is at its lowest. And would you agree that these statistics are now showing that the market is at the infamous bottom?
Yeah, I think it shows buoyancy for sure. One of my favorite words in this. And it's we're no longer seeing consistent tick down. We're seeing more buoyant months like this, and sellers market percentages like this. And what's extra surprising, I think, is that like you said at the start, one of the typically slower months of the year has produced this. So obviously we're looking for triggers to see when things are starting to turn around, and we believe that these are the types of triggers that we're starting to hit now to show that there could be life legs, as they say, in
Yeah.
the market going in a different direction.
And if you're listening to some other people in terms of economy and the market and some other speakers on it, you'll see that we're not just the only ones. There's a few, I want to call them lightly, professionals or well-adversed people who put their opinion out there publicly, who also are saying that we've now hit the bottom and it's now not doing this anymore. Because typically what happens when we start getting into like after May, we tend to see a downward trajectory until we kind of hit that fall period where we peak back up. So usually June is better than July. And this year, when you're looking at Vancouver, east side and west side, not just Metro Vancouver, I mean, the sales to active ratio is kind of like doubled. Like you're going anywhere from about a 40% ratio to a 70% ratio, which would say an extreme seller's market, but again, take that with a grain of salt. It needs to be for a sustained period of time.
Yeah, and how this will look in the reality of things outside of the spreadsheet, when you get out there and you're looking at real estate and you're transacting or trying to, putting in offers and so forth, it's not going to be, okay, we're now all of a sudden in multiple offers again.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, it's going to sit at that kind of buoyant level, and you're going to see some consistency in achieving a set range of pricing, and then it, I think, very, very slowly will start to show people eagerly trying to, again, start that climb in pricing. When that's going to be, I don't know, but the activity needs to come first. This is a sign of that activity coming first, and products selling faster from market is going to be the first thing. Then you're going to get closer to that reality of not an asking price, because that can be anything, but a market value of what the comparables are showing it's worth, and then tick those boxes from there.
Yeah, we're now seeing the gap close as well between inventory and sales. I mean, across the board, sales went up from last month, 23.1%, and the amount of inventory on the market actually dropped by just under 5%, 4.9%. So we're kind of coming to, the idea is kind of closing that gap a little bit. So if you were looking for the bottom essentially to buy, now is the right time to do so. There'll be a lot of naysayers out there saying, well, we're still at record lows, and however true that may be, the market is always going to turn around at some point. These are just the type of figures that you want to look at if you're actually looking to find that bottom and that turning point and get in. So some positive news for the real estate market, which is quite nice, and it will be interesting to see what happens with August when the figures come out and how that peters off and see what happens in the fall, which is typically a busier time anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's positive news for both sides. It's positive news for sellers to show that there's a resistance in general taking place now in the market in general, and for buyers, to our last video last week, as we clarified, you can't just go in throwing numbers and assume any sort of success. It shows that there is now buoyancy in the market, and on a variety of levels and price points in the market in general, obviously with houses and condos, and that traction is taking place.
Yeah.
So no longer is it kind of at least with these numbers we're looking at a falling knife, as we've had referenced, that they're trying to catch. There's a bit more foundation to the market, I feel now.
Yeah, and I mean, you can speak to sellers out there who have been looking to buy a house on the east or west side of Vancouver recently. It's been an absolute nightmare. Like, stuff is multiple offers, stuff is gone within the first week, and if you haven't looked at the statistic, you wouldn't understand why. And so it shows that movement is coming, and that's now being reflected on a larger basis in the figures. So it looks like we've hit our bottom, and now it's time to kind of go from there.
And we will see what next month brings us.
Absolutely.
If this reinforces or if it stays buoyant. And I personally believe that we're going to see, instead of a buoyant and slight softening routine, I think we're going to get much more consistency with the buoyancy of the market, and maybe, not yet, but we will next start seeing some very small
increases,
upticks.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think that the market goes completely down and it goes straight back up again. It runs kind of more at a buoyant level. Then after a term of buoyancy, you start to see the increase. Typically, it's not just a up down type game as well. So guys, hopefully that shed some good news onto your evenings. Thank you as always for watching us, and we will see you next week.
Next Thursday.
Ciao, amigos.
Bye bye.
It's like that.